In Prajalato plan for the new event in the cross-country calendar, the first time that the team sprint has been introduced to the Winter Olympic Games. A very good morning once again from myself, David Goldstrom, and all the Eurosport Nordic team. You join us on a sky, more blue morning, and the temperatures as chilly as ever. The air temperature -7, the snow -19, but in fact a little colder the air temperature, because we're right in the hollow of the valley here, and the skiers who've been warming up and getting ready in the past hour for this inaugural competition. Well, just to explain how it all works, what happened overnight is that the countries entered, the men's and team sprints both being women's sprints both being run on the same day, and in all 16 teams entering in the women's championship, 25 in the men's. Now they've been divided into two semi-finals, and it's the best 5 nations first across the line from each semi-final that will go forward to the final. As you can see, the weather very similar as it has been right since the opening of the games, but I have to say that there is a change on the horizon, possibly as soon as tomorrow, but today should be absolutely perfect once again. Now the course here is a little different. The men's and women's courses, the women's 1,200 meters, in fact 1,145 to be exact. The men's 1,325. The women go first, and the difference in altitude, the men, they go to a higher level, just 10 meters higher above the men. Well, Becky Scott, who's going to be partnered by teammate Sarah Renner, they have a major chance of medaling here in this inaugural competition. Becky, of course, with her husband Thomas Grandy, competing for Canada in the giant slalom a little later on in the games. And today the Canadians are up against some really tough opposition, particularly in this first semi-final. They're up against the Finns, Aino Kaisa Saarinen and Virpi Koitinen, who, if they perform to their maximum, are real contenders for the gold medal. Now, in the sprint competition, what happens here is that each of the women in each of the duos does 3 laps of the course. So the first woman for Canada will be Sarah Renner. She'll go out, do the first lap of 1,145 meters, come down and change over with Becky Scott, who'll go out and do her first lap, and each woman does 3 laps. So Becky Scott will be bringing Canada home on the last leg. The changeover zone is 45 meters, and that's clearly marked with signs, red going in, green going out, and you must hand over to your partner within that zone. So this is the women's course. They go out and turn right-handed, they drop down, then they're climbing, and then they drop down, and you can see that last twisty turn that takes them into the stadium there. That's where problems could occur. And as ever in sprint competitions, the important objects in the beginning, particularly in the semi-finals, is to find your rhythm and make sure that you have a good position with the leaders to qualify, and make sure that you're one of those 5 teams that go through to the final. So 6 by 1,200 meters, that's the distance that the women will race for their competition. And the men, well, we'll show you that course a little later on. It's the 2 semi-finals of the women that go first, and after that to be followed by the men, and subsequently to round off the morning, the 2 10-team finals to decide this inaugural sprint, which is in classic style, stride and glide. The individual sprint Olympic championship, well, that will be in freestyle skate later on in the games. But today, it's once again a classic day. Skis and poles can be exchanged, and servicemen can change skis. And this is the order in which they're drawn. Finland, Saarinen and Koitinen; Canada, Renner and Scott; Japan, Natsumi and Fukuda; the host nation, Italy, Follis and Peruzzi, Bourgeois, and Peria for France, Yatskaya Kolomina for Kazakhstan, Fabian and Benedic for Slovenia, and Malets and Zavali for Ukraine. Those are first to go. A little break. We'll be back for the first one.
Titillating rhythms of the Winter Olympic Games. The day begins with a preview show, Buongiorno Torino. Then we go live for every major competition. Every evening, catch up with all the headlines in Olympic Extra. And throughout the night, all the other events that made up the Olympic Day. To complete the picture, we have Olympic News Flash. And don't forget our website, Eurosport.com. The Winter Olympics, 24 hours a day, from February 10th to 26th, with expert analysis from Alberto Tomba.
ESSO, taking on the world's toughest energy challenges.
Once again, a very good morning and welcome to you all to Progelato Plan for this inaugural Team Classic Sprint, a new event in the cross-country program for both the men and the women, and we get underway in a few moments' time with the two women's semi-finals. There are 16 nations represented, 8 in the first semi-final, and the 5 fastest teams, the 5 to cross the line first, will advance to the final. Finland, Canada, Japan, Italy, France, Kazakhstan, Slovenia and the Ukraine go in this first semi-final. Over 1,145 meters, with each of the women in each of the teams running 3 times round this particular loop here, which is one of the most demanding. They go out of the stadium, they turn right-handed, they drop down, but almost immediately they start to climb. They climb and then they do a hairpin turn of 180 degrees, drop down again, they go round a little clump of trees and then swing back towards the stadium, a left and a right chicane, and then they climb 8 meters back up into the stadium, where they go into a 45-meter changeover zone when they must hand over to their partner. Aina-Kaisa Saarinen will set out for Finland. She is in the sprint rankings the 14th best. Her partner Virpi Koitinen is higher at 5th place. Sara Renner, the world sprint bronze medalist from last year in Oberstdorf, will start Canada's challenge. It'll be Madoka Natsumi for Japan from Hokkaido, 27 years of age, who begins the Japanese challenge. Italy, represented by Arianna Follis. Arianna Follis, 28 years of age, just outside the top 15 in the World Cup sprint rankings coming into the Games. And then for France, Elodie Bourgeois-Pin, born in Morbier, 23 years of age. It's a young partnership for the French. She's partnered by Aurélie Peria. And then for Kazakhstan, Oksana Yatskaya, who's had a quiet season. And then Slovenia, it'll be Vesna Fabian, and it'll be Marina Malets for the Ukraine, who goes out on the far side, and it'll be Saarinen trying to do what is most important. She wears bib number 1, which is, first of all, establish your rhythm, then organize your position to be amongst the leaders. What all of these women will be trying to do is to qualify by using as little energy as they have to. And it is Finland and Canada who go 1 and 2, and remember, it's the 5 first across the final finish line that count, and they are almost in numeric order. Japan are 3rd, Italy are 4th at the moment, and Madoka Natsumi, who competed, you can just see her at the back there on the right. She competed in the Olympic Games in Salt Lake City in the individual sprint, and she was a respectable 12th there, but that was in freestyle skating. This is in classic. And there's this really nice rhythm from Saarinen, 27 years of age, from Hollola in Finland, and her twin sister Maja will be watching her progress very, very keenly all through. These two girls, the twin sisters, they couldn't help but ski. They literally were born right next to the tracks, the snow tracks. So it's been something all their life. And immediately there, good glide from Sara Renner, and puts herself into the lead. This is good positioning. because what she's doing is making sure that she has pole position for this tricky little turn back into the stadium. First they go left, then they go right into the stadium, and as they go right into the stadium, you'll see that they actually start to climb as well. And it's about 8 meters, the climb back into the stadium. And as we saw over the weekend in the pursuit races, patience will be important. And Sarah from Canmore, 30 years of age, enjoying the best season of her life, had a runners-up spot in Davos on her way to the games, so a great confidence boost, and here she comes in to hand over at the first exchange to Becky Scott. Becky Scott of Canada, just a little bit sad to have finished only 6th in the opening pursuit and having relinquished her Olympic title, but nonetheless the two Canadians who are living down near Pragelato, they think they've got a very decent chance of actually getting a medal here today. Exchange order there, and so if you're not in the top 5, that's when you've got to worry a little bit. Becky Scott away, married to the former American cross-country skier Justin Wadsworth. The pair of them spend time both at Canmore and also Justin's hometown of Bend in Oregon. Becky Scott with 3 World Cup victories, and here you can see the servicemen. Now they're going through, they're servicing Sarah Renner's skis, and also Saarinen and Natsumi, and as I said, they can service or they can exchange. It's entirely up to them. And that's Bourgeois just waiting to take it back already. Perriard at the moment is running the leg for France, and back with the action now. And 5 teams. On the right, you've got Ariana Follis, much improved Ariana, 28 years of age, a bronze medal last year with the Italians in the World Championship relay. And just nipping up on the inside here, they've just got to be a little bit careful. This is no moment for heroics. That will come a little later. Becky Scott, the meat in the sandwich. And back at the back there, that's Zavali of that little group. So 1, Follis, 2, Becky Scott. On the near side, moving up there, Gabriella Paruzzi. Paruzzi, who really did have an excellent race. She said that she was very tense before the pursuit started. She finished a pretty good 5th, but her performance told her that she was back to something like the years of old, where she really raced and felt strong at the end of the race. And Paruzzi, look at her on the near side making the charge, and that's for Japan. That's Nobuko Fukuda going up into 4th place. 5th at the moment, that's already Perriard, and they're not far away from the next exchange. So it'll be Becky Scott handing back to Sarah Renner, and it'll be Koitinen handing back to Aino Kaisa Saarinen to go out for their 2nd leg. And this is where the race starts to take good form. And the design of the course, very important, because you don't want to have a sprint course in classic style which is simply double poling. And that's not the case once they get onto the climb. Here they go over the little bridge through which the skiers enter the centre of the stadium. And working hard, Elodie Bourgeois-Pain, 30th a year ago in the classic sprint in Oberstdorf. The first time this particular discipline was entered or included in a championship. And Sarah Renner looking very focused up front there. It's an interesting little story. When Sarah married Thomas Grandi, they actually made their guests ski through the woods across the divide, telemark skiing to get to the wedding, and it was a horrible day. It was falling down with rain. Nonetheless, a great occasion for the pair of them. Just looking a little anxious there. Aurélie Perriat, of course, husband Christophe, also involved in the games for France. Aurélie from Evian originally. And as you can see, the gaps are beginning to open up here. And Sarah Renner. Saarinen. And that's Marina Malets. And I have to say, the French are struggling a little bit. A little look round there by Sarah Renner just to gauge the situation. As I said, they won't want to exert or use more energy than they have to. And 2 are away, and 4 are now fighting for 3 places. But remember, there's still a long way to go. Sarah's got to come in, hand over to Becky, and then she's got 1 more lap to go. And at the moment, it is Natsumi of Japan who's struggling to keep with them. And there's Nobuko Fukuda, who comes from Aomori, competed in the sprint last year in the World Championships, but was only 35th, trying to get back onto the tail. So each woman, and Sarah, and in fact the first skiers have done 2 laps, and now this is the 2nd lap for Koitinen for Finland, for Scott for Canada, for Fukuda for Japan, Peruzzi for Italy, Perriat for France, Kolomina for Kazakhstan, Benedict for Slovenia, and Zavali for the Ukraine. Just coming up over this bridge, and Fukuda trying to get herself back into contention for Japan. This is going to be pretty tight. You can see a little bit of sticky tape there on the suit, covering up a bit of advertising, which you're not allowed to show at the Olympic Games, of course. And that's Aino Kaza Saarinen skiing very well. Bourgeois Pain struggling at the moment, the French. They're just in a qualifying position in 5th place, but that's not a comfortable position to be in. Up front, it is Verpi Koitinen and Becky Scott making their way, and a little bit of muddle going on here. That was Veli moving across in front of Aurélie Perriat. And now Verpi Koitinen, who decided not to go in the pursuit. That was her decision. She regarded it as being a very good decision. She's focusing on this race and, of course, the women's 10-kilometer classic. She put in a fantastic effort to win in Davos just on the eve of the Olympic Games, Koitinen, and she is absolutely a classic specialist. She's had 4 World Cup victories, and they've all come in classic style. 2 over 10 kilometers and 2 sprints. And the front 2 leaving them alone. That's good work there by Fukuda, who's pushed Japan up, and it is France who are struggling at the moment. Aurélie Perriat just getting a little bit of detachment. You can see the effort etched on her face there. She knows that this is difficult. There's the left and now the right-hander, and the leaders are already up on the climb. And when they come in, they're going to hand over to Aino-Kaisa Saarinen. Will take over for Finland for her 3rd and final excursion in this semi-final, and it'll be Sarah Renner taking over from Becky Scott. It'll be Natsumi who'll be taking over from Fukuda, and Fukuda has done a really excellent job to put Japan back into this. And the most nervous will be Bourgeois Pain, who's got to make a connection of about 15 meters, and that's not going to be easy. So Finland, Canada, Italy, Japan and Kazakhstan in a qualifying position. I haven't really given Kazakhstan as much credit as we should do. They're team number 6, Yatskaya and Kolomina. This is Yatskaya in picture there, 27 years of age. And if you go to the World Championships last year in the freestyle relay, she was 7th. And go back to the relay in 2003, the Kazakh team were 4th there, and they were 7th in 2005. They've been there or thereabouts. But this is all about Finland and Canada at the moment. And there are no medals and no points about winning this semi-final. So these two now will tend to just keep an eye on things and try and control. There's no need for any heroics. Remember, they've got their last runners to hand over to. They just need to concentrate, keep focused, avoid any silliness like a trip. And the three in front there, you can see 4, that's Ariana Follis. In front of her, that's Natsumi. And in front of Natsumi is Yatskaya. And they make that far turn. Now they drop down a little bit. Then they climb once again. And Ariana Follis, probably quite fortunate at the moment that Bourgeois Pain is struggling for France. Otherwise, the Italians might be going out of this competition. At the moment, they're just about hanging on in there. But they have got Peruzzi on the last leg. And that gap now between the front two and the next three is about 20 meters, and France about 35 meters off that. And it's difficult to see them getting back. Very good work here by Natsumi. She's capitalized on the terrific effort of Fukuda in the previous lap. And that's really well done. The two Japanese sprinters outside the top 30 in Oberstdorf at the World Championships this time last year. So this is just an indication of the progress that they've made. Well, Aurélie Perriat is going to have to spread wings and fly to get France back into this. But here we come, the final exchange. And Finland and Canada, they've almost been together the whole way. And you can see for yourself, even the camera angle is foreshortening their advantage. And as long as they don't do anything silly, they are going to easily qualify for the final. So Virpi Koitinen and Becky Scott head off. And also going off Fukuda for Japan, Peruzzi for Italy, and Kolomina, 24-year-old Elena Kolomina for Kazakhstan gets underway. And it looks as if those are the 5 teams that are going to qualify, which means that at the moment, as it stands, France, Slovenia and the Ukraine are going to miss out. But still anything can happen. And Gabriella Peruzzi, distinctive white hat. Peruzzi now 36 years of age, but as hungry as ever for success. And she and her husband, they live in Tavisio, right across the other side of the country, tucked in the northeast corner, close to Slovenia and Austria. And she, of course, herself an Olympic champion from Salt Lake City, over 30 kilometers in classic style, and also finished a very respectable 8th in the sprint. Virpi Koitinen in front here. Well, a year ago in the World Championship classic sprint, she was 5th. Becky Scott was 13th, so I wouldn't necessarily take that as the current form of these two, but they are in extremely good form, as we've seen coming in to these games in the World Cups. And they're just controlling now. They don't have to do any more. The work is done. And it's all about the next 3, Fukuda, Peruzzi and Kolomina. Koitinen, powerful, 1.74 m, 75 kilos. Becky Scott, not too different in stature. And this is where it's going to be all important in the final. Becky just relaxing. They said, Becky and Sarah, well, Becky said, we've got good chances and we're really looking forward to today. We drink lots of espresso in the morning. That's our own little bit of ritual. And Sarah, her partner, she said, well, we're not scared of anyone. It's a perfect course and we're ready to fight. Well, the first part of the battle has been won. They've qualified themselves for the final. Virpi Koitunen leading the field home. And she's done what she said that she was determined to do, which is to avoid any accidents. And so far, so good. So Finland qualify for the final in just over 17 minutes and 16 seconds. Canada just behind as well. So Finland and Canada, and then coming home on the right there, that's Italy, then Japan, and just behind Kazakhstan, who will get the 5th place, and a spread of just under 20 seconds. And disappointment, I'm afraid, for France, Slovenia and Ukraine, who are eliminated. And none of these courses here are easy. Remember, we're up at altitude here, over 1,500 meters. So that's the first stage done, the women's sprint, the lowest point in the stadium, 1,500 and, well, it's not quite in the stadium actually, it's just on the turn and drop down as you leave. It's 1,561 meters, and the highest they go to today, 1,577 meters, whereas the men will go to 1,587 meters. And they call it a sprint, but as you can see, this is a grueling journey. And this is Maja Benedicic coming home for Slovenia. Fabia and Maja, the Slovenian team, relatively inexperienced. Fabia's 20, Maja's 24, and they will learn for this. They go into 7th place, but look at the gap there between 5th and 7th. And finally, across the line, it's the Ukraine. Again, 2 women in their early 20s. They were outside the top 40 last year in Oberstdorf, but there's no doubt that Finland are certainly contenders for the gold medal. It's a wonderful partnership they have. Aino-Kaisa Saarinen and Virpi Koitunen. Next stop for them, the final, but in a moment we'll move to the second semi-final and find out who they'll meet. So Finland, Canada, Italy, Japan and Kazakhstan confirmed as finalists in this inaugural classic team sprint for women in the 2006 Winter Olympic Games here in Pragelato in Piemonte. Well, this is not an easy task either, because Sweden, Norway, Germany have got really good teams here. Anna Dahlberg and Lena Andersson, who are the top sprinters of the season. In white for Sweden, it's going to be Anna Dahlberg, chosen by Inge Brotten, the head coach, to lead off. She leads the sprint rankings and comes here on the crest of the wave with a victory. For Norway, Ella Jømle, also on the crest of a wave, 26 years of age, from Oslo, and the 3rd best sprinter in the World Cup rankings. Evy Sackenbacher, who was ruled out of the pursuit because her hemoglobin blood count was above the permitted limit of 16. That was corrected. She was retested yesterday, and she's go today. Olga Moskalenko-Rotcheva for Russia, the Russians who are all staying high altitude at 2,000 meters, and she's partnered by Elena Sidko. Estonia, Piret Pourmeister, she runs the opening leg, the 20-year-old from Tallinn, and she's partnered by Kylie Sierge. Then for the United States, it's Wags, as she's known to her best friends. It's Wendy K. Wagner, 31 years of age, from Park City, and she's partnered by Kicken Randall. And for the Czech Republic, Helena Balatkova, 26 years of age. Radlova is her partner. And finally, on the far side, it'll be Chunli Wang for China and Chunli Yang, both of them from Beijing. And not forlorn hopes. The Chinese cross-country skiers improving. Nearest you in white, and it's Sweden's Anna Dahlberg who gets away. Right next to her, wearing 10, that's Ella Jumne, the tall figure in the red suit, and also sporting a white hat. But Anna Dahlberg, 29 years of age, from Östersund, running this first leg. And if you're wondering where is Emily Erstig, the World Classic Sprint champion of last season from Oberstdorf, well, many of you who follow the circuit will know that Emily was pretty sick during December, and although she's here and she will race in the 10-kilometer classic, she hasn't managed to regain the race pace that Ingebrigtsen considered necessary to put her in the sprint. So it's come down to Anna Dahlberg and Lena Andersson, but that's a formidable duo, and we would be very surprised if they don't qualify. But this is a hot little semi. On the far side there, wearing 11, that's Evie Sackenbacher, who was so looking forward to charging up this hill in freestyle. She's still looking forward to charging up it in freestyle in the 30 kilometers, the closer of the games for the cross-country women, and she's taken the lead. Had a little chat with her yesterday. Mentally difficult to get over being stood down for the pursuit because of the hemoglobin count, but it's one of those situations which the International Ski Federation are going to have to look at, because never before at any games have so many athletes from so many countries trained and lived at high altitude for such an extended or long period. In fact, the German team, before the games, they had spent since last June no less than 75 days at high altitude, and that is simply unprecedented. And the situation is that when you do live at extended periods, you do tend to obviously increase your number of red blood cells, and therefore the amount of oxygen that you're carrying. So that's something they'll have to look at. It's not that the limit is wrong, it might just need to be adjusted for certain circumstances. And this is a fast and furious first leg here, and already they're coming back into the stadium for the first handover, and it's going to be Anna Dahlberg handing over to Lena Andersson for Sweden, Ella Jumle to Marit Bjørgen for Norway. Norway just about ahead, and now we're going to find out whether Marit Bjørgen, who was forced to retire from the pursuit, is over the worst of her problems. And here she is, marvellous Marit, who at best is no doubt the world's best sprinter, but is she physically at her best? It was an interesting decision that they made, she and her coach. It was an hour before the race started, and Marit was, well, suffering from a stomach that was churning like a washing machine, and she had a chat with her head coach Samdal, and they made a deal. They said, look, start, see what happens. If it doesn't work, pull out. She pulled out before they changed to freestyle, and let's hope that the recovery has been sufficiently good for her to work with credit today. So through this next stage, and it is up front Lena Andersson who's got the advantage at the moment. So there you can see Lena Andersson, Swedes, Team 9, Team 10, Norway, Team 11, Germany, Sackenbacher in third place. Russia were fourth at the exchange and Estonia fifth. But now the situation. Ella Jumle partnering Marit Bjørgen. Now this is where Bjørgen really traditionally makes it count, and look at the power of this Norwegian. And her boyfriend, her partner, Fred Boyd Lundberg, Nordic combined Olympic champion back in 1994. He'd have been as concerned as anybody at Marit's sickness, not feeling well, not feeling herself, but this is much more like it. Good, aggressive skiing from Marit Bjørgen. 25 years of age from Rognes near Trondheim. Just a quick look there at the Chinese. That's Chunli Yang, who's not done quite as well as her partner Chunli Wang, who's got World Cup points, but they're back into the stadium now. So both members of the teams have now completed their first lap, and out they go on the second journey. And it's Norway, Ella Jumle, leading again from Sweden, and that's Anna Dahlberg. '15, Balatkova, and then Pourmeister of Estonia. So Ella Jumle, 26 years of age, known as Bella, very appropriately on a day like this, Valentine's Day. 9th in the World Championship last year, Ella Jumle, but she's improved oh so much. And so not only the servicemen but the masseurs on hand here, and here you can see this breakaway of 5, and 5 is all we need. Marit Bjørgen, I must say, looking a whole lot better. When we saw her just before the start of the double pursuit over the weekend, she looked really shivery and uncomfortable, but we didn't know of that conversation that she'd had with Samdal. Also moving up, but not wearing that traditional pink hat, the 25-year-old from Reitenwinkel. And these 5 don't have to do anything special. In the lead now, this is Olga Rotcheva, Moskalenko formerly. And Vasily Rotchev, who goes for Russia in the men's team sprint very shortly, with both his sister and sister-in-law in World Cup competition. And this is his sister-in-law, Rotcheva, who's actually leading the race at the moment. Leading this semi-final qualifier. Terrific camera shot there, which really gives you an idea of the drop down and then the climb back up into the stadium. So Russia from Germany, from Norway, and then just at the back there, just losing a little territory, is Anna Dahlberg. Sweden also need to now make sure that they don't make any mistakes, because we've certainly got them on the short list for medals. Norway already on the medal table thanks to Lars Bistøl. Ski jumping success on the normal hill, gold and bronze for them, but yet to get a gold medal on the cross-country trail. And you can see United States at the moment in 5th place. That's Wendy K. Wagner, partnered by Kika Randall. Kika Randall, who, like Evy Sackenbacher, was stood down for a hemoglobin count that was over the legal limit of 16, but when retested, along with Evy yesterday, both women were back below that level and therefore allowed to start today. This is the second leg, and it is Marit Bjørgen up front there. Both the Americans and the Canadians strongly believing that as the seasons continue, that they can make a name for themselves, particularly in the sprinting world. And this will be an even bigger event, I'm sure, come 2010, the Vancouver Winter Olympics. Another 4 years and it will have really matured. So 10, Marit Bjørgen, 12, that's Rocheva, 14 in picture here. This is Kicken Randall, the young woman I was just referring to. Kicken, 23 years of age, from Anchorage in Alaska. Interesting young woman. Her aunt, Bessie Haynes, was a cross-country skier at the Lake Placid Olympics, and also her uncle was an Olympian as well, so lots of tradition in her family. But Marit Bjørgen stretching away now. Be interesting to see what sort of time they put up here. 17 minutes. For the first semi-final. Remember, Bjørgen will still have the anchor leg to go. So into the stadium, Marit Bjørgen going to hand over to Ella Jumle to run her third and final leg for Norway. Traditionally, we've seen Hilda Pedersen team up with Marit Bjørgen, but Jumle's form has been so good that it was difficult for Sandal to deny her a place, and away she goes with behind her, wearing 12, that's Rocheva Moskalenko, 11, that's Evi Sakenbacher. Interesting that Jochen Belle chose Sakenbacher to go first and Viola Bauer to anchor the team home. And the United States still in a qualifying position, and you can see the Czech Republic there. It's a huge gap, it's 19 seconds, and it's difficult to see them closing that. China just behind them in 7th place. So Bjørgen, Anderson, Kika Randall, Sidko, Bauer. Those are the women who've now got just about a minute or so to wait before they pick up for the final and decisive leg. But at the moment, they're not really under pressure, because the other 3 nations represented in the competition, that's the Czech Republic, Estonia and China, are far enough back not to cause concern. So Jumle, just a nice rhythm there from Rocheva. And the third time round, you can just see the effort of this climb. They don't go the whole way up this wicked hill. This is the freestyle hill normally. Evi just in a relaxed glide here. Round the left-hander, drops down towards the right-hander, which will take her back towards the stadium to hand over to Marit Bjørgen. And really, Marit should be able to cruise her 1145 meter journey to bring Norway through to a qualifying position and save energy, because the job's being done, and these are wide gaps here, and that's a sign of just how tough this course is. Some might say it's not really in the spirit of sprinting, it's too tough a course, it's really made for the endurance athletes as opposed to the out-and-out sprinters, but it is a real test. Into the final exchange from Russia, Germany in 3rd place. So Marit Bjørgen on her way. And then Sidko for Russia, 26 years of age, and she's had a victory this season, Sidco, right at the beginning of the season in Dusseldorf in the freestyle opening sprint, but that course is hardly comparable to this because it's so undemanding. Still the United States in 5th place, which is good news. And out for China, Chunli Yang on the anchor leg. But here's Marit Bjørgen. Well, in recent times, things have not gone her way. Last year in Oberstdorf, they really messed up badly, and she failed to qualify. She finished only in the 17th fastest time, but only 16 went through to the medal competition, and Bjørgen took no part. So that was one major error, and in fact Bjørgen, because of all her sickness, her bronchitis and her problems, has actually slipped currently to 8th place in the World Cup rankings, and that really is uncharacteristic to see her in that position. That's Elena Sidco, you can see moving up the hill. And she's got a huge advantage. Viola Bauer of Germany running the anchor leg here, 29 years of age, Olympic relay gold medalist, like Evi Sakkenbacher back in 2002. And Viola with her Greek boyfriend, Lefteris Fafalis, also here in the games, and Lefteris has actually got 1 sprint point this year. So they'll be both very interested in each other's progress over the course of today. But in fact, I say that Lefteris is actually not running because there is no Greek team, but he will run, or at least try to qualify for the freestyle sprint, and I'm sure Viola will be giving him maximum support there. But meanwhile, Bjørgen, nice comfortable rhythm. She's skiing well within herself at the moment, and this will be interesting to see the time here. Marit Bjørgen, and it's just a little bit faster, and easing up, 17 minutes and 14 seconds, and 17:16.8 was Koitunen's time. So Norway safely through to the final, which will be a lot more competitive than this particular race. Russia through, likewise Sweden and Germany. And it should be the United States that come home. The United States, Wendy Wagner-Kaye and Keegan Randall, to take their place in the final. And Julie do so. The first 5 teams in the first semi split by just under 20 seconds. So the split here, 37 seconds. And 17:19. So if you just look at it on time, Finland, Canada, Norway on the clock. Finland, Canada, Norway, Russia and Germany. Those on the clock are the nations who should be fighting out for gold, silver and bronze in the women's team classic sprint final, which comes up after the men's semi-finals, and those are after this.
Whether it's the individual events, the pairs or ice dancing, at the Winter Olympics, figure skating always provides some of the most spectacular occasions. With scintillating artistry, intense suspense, where a single slip can shatter a dream. Olympic figure skating, tonight, live on Eurosport.